Good day, this is Professor Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Saturday, March 23rd, 2019. It is 1:31:59 seconds Eastern Standard Time. And today I'm going to be doing a reading on general biology. So let's get started here. Biology, the life science. The word biology means the science of life. The Greek bios, life, and logos, word or knowledge. Therefore, biology is the science of living things. That is why biology is sometimes known as life science. The science has been divided into many subdisciplines, such as botany, bacteriology, anatomy, zoology, histology, mycology, embryology, parasitology, genetics, molecular biology, systematics, immunology, microbiology, physiology, cell biology, cytology, ecology, and virology. Other branches of science include or are comprised in part of biology studies, including paleontology, taxonomy, evolution, mycology, helminthology, protozoology, entomology, biochemistry, biophysics, bioinformatics, bioengineering, bioclimatology, and anthropology. Not all scientists agree on the definition of just what makes up life. Various characteristics describe most living things. However, with most of the characteristics listed below, we can think of one or more examples that would seem to break the rule, with something non-living being classified as living or something living classified as non-living. Therefore, we are careful not to be too dogmatic in our attempt to explain which things are living or non-living. Living things are sensitive, meaning they are able to respond to stimuli. Living things are able to grow, develop, and reproduce. Living things are able to adapt over time by the process of natural selection. All known living things use the hereditary molecule, DNA. Internal functions are coordinated and regulated so that the internal environment of a living thing is relatively constant, referred to as homeostasis. Living things are organized in the microscopic level from atoms up to cells. Atoms are arranged into molecules, then into macromolecules, which make up organelles, which work together to form cells. Beyond this, cells are organized in higher levels to form entire multicellular organisms. Cells together form tissues, which make up organs, which are part of the organ systems, which work together to form an entire organism. Of course, beyond this, organisms from populations which make up parts of the ecosystem. All of the Earth's ecosystems together form the diverse environment that is the Earth. Example: subatoms, atoms, molecules, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organisms, population, community, ecosystems. Nature of science. Science is a methodology for learning about the world. It involves the application of knowledge. The scientific method deals with the systematic investigation of reproducible results, the formation and testing of hypothesis, and reasoning. Reasoning can be broken down into two categories. Induction: specific data is used to develop a generalized observation or conclusion. In deduction, general information leads to specific conclusion. Most reasoning in science is done through induction. Science, as we know, it arose as a discipline in the 17th century. The scientific method is not a step-by-step linear process. It is an intuitive process, a methodology for learning about the world through the application of knowledge. Scientists must be able to have an imaginative preconception of what the truth is. Scientists will often observe and then hypothesize the reason why a phenomenon occurred. They use all of their knowledge and a bit of imagination, all in an attempt to uncover something that might be true. A typical scientific investigation might go like so. You observe that the room appears dark, and you ponder why the room is dark. In an attempt to find explanations to this curiosity, your mind unravels several different hypotheses. One hypothesis might state that the lights are turned off. Another hunch might be that the room's light bulb has burnt out. Worse yet, you can be going blind to discover the truth. You experiment. You feel your way around the room and find a light switch and turn it on. No light. You repeat the experiment, flickering the switch back and forth. Still nothing. That means your initial hypothesis the room is dark because the lights are off has been rejected. You devise more experiments to test your hypothesis, utilizing a flashlight to prove that you are indeed not blind. In order to accept your last remaining hypothesis as the truth, you could predict that changing the light bulb will fix the problem. If all your predictions succeed, the original hypothesis is valid and is accepted. In some cases, however, your predictions will not occur, in which you'll have to start over. Perhaps the power is off. Scientists first make observations that raise a particular question. In order to explain the observed phenomenon, they develop a number of possible explanations or hypotheses. This is the inductive part of science, observing and constructing plausible arguments for why an event occurred. Experiments are then used to eliminate one of more of the possible hypotheses until the hypothesis remains. Using deduction, scientists use the principles of their hypothesis to make predictions, and then test to make sure that their predictions are confirmed. After many trials, repeatability and all predictions have been confirmed, the hypothesis then may become a theory. Quick definitions. Observation, quantitative and quantitative measurements of the world. Inference, deriving new knowledge based upon old knowledge. Hypothesis, a suggested explanation. Rejected hypothesis, an explanation that has been ruled out through experimentation. Accepted hypothesis, an explanation that has not been ruled out through excessive experimentation and makes verifiable predictions that are true. Experiment, a test that is used to rule out a hypothesis or validate something already known. Scientific method, the process of scientific investigation. Theory, a widely accepted hypothesis that stands the test of time, often tested and usually never rejected. The scientific method is based primarily on the testing of hypotheses. By experimentation, this involves a control or subject that does not undergo the process in question. A scientist will also seek to limit variables to one or another very small number, single or minimum number of variables. The procedure is to form a hypothesis or prediction about what you believe or expect to see, and then do everything you can to violate that, or falsify the hypothesis. Although this may seem unintuitive, the process serves to establish more firmly what is and what is not true. Theories are hypotheses which have withstood repeated attempts at falsification. Common theories include evolution by natural selection and the idea that all organisms consist of cells. The scientific community asserts that much more evidence supports these two ideas that contradicts them. Charles Darwin is most remembered today for his contribution to the theory of evolution through natural selection. The seeds of this theory were planted in Darwin's mind through observations made on a 5-year voyage to the New World on a ship called the Beagle. There he studied fossils and the geological record, geographic distribution of organisms, the uniqueness and relatedness of island life forms, and the affinity of island forms to mainland forms. Upon his return to England, Darwin pondered over his observations and concluded that evolution must occur through natural selection. He declined, however, to publish his work because of its controversial nature. However, when another scientist, Wallace, reached similar conclusions, Darwin was convinced to publish his observations in 1859. His hypothesis revolutionized biology has yet to be falsified by empirical data collected by mainstream scientists. Since Darwin's day, scientists have amassed a more complete fossil record, including microorganisms and chemical fossils. These fossils have supported and added subtleties to Darwin's theories. However, the age of the Earth is now held to be much older than Darwin's thought. Researchers have also uncovered some of the preliminary mysteries of the mechanisms of heredity as carried out through genetics and DNA, areas unknown to Darwin. Another growing area is comparative anatomy, including homology and analogy. Today we can see a bit of evolutionary history and development of embryos, as certain, although not all, aspects of development recapitulate evolutionary history. The molecular biology, study of slowly mutating genes, reveal considerable evolutionary history consistent with fossil and anatomical record. Darwin and his theories have been challenged many times in the late 150 years. The challenge had been primarily religious, based on perceived conflict with the preconceived notion of creationism. Many of those who challenged Darwin have been adherents to the young Earth hypothesis that says that Earth is only some 6,000 years old, and that all species were individually created by God. Some of the proponents of these theories have suggested that chemical and physical laws that exist today were different or non-existent in earlier ages. However, for the most part, these theories are either not scientifically testable and fall outside the area of attention of the field of biology, or have been disproved by one or more fields of science. Matter is defined as anything that has mass, an amount of matter in an object and occupies space, which is measured as volume. The atom, example, hydrogen, The simplest element, 1 proton positive, 1 electron in orbit negative, built by adding 1 proton and 1 electron at a time. Number of protons determines atomic number and number of electrons. Neutrons, neutral charge. The chemical building blocks of life. Building blocks of life. Carbon-based organic molecules, carbohydrates CHO, lipids CHO, water insoluble, proteins CHONS, structure, function in cells, nucleic acids CHONP, hereditary genetic information. Carbon can make 4 covalent bonds, chain, straight, branch, ring, hydrocarbons, CH, store energy, functional groups, attach to carbon, attach chemical properties, form macromolecules, subocean. Carbohydrates, principally CHO, rare NS, and P, 1C ratio, 2H ratio, 1,0. Energy-rich, many CH bonds. Monosaccharides, principal glucose. Simple sugars, principal formula, C6H12O6. Form rings in water solution. Disaccharides, sucrose, lactose. Polysaccharide starch, glycogen, cellulose, and chitin. Stereoisomers, bond angles of carbon point to corners of a tetrahedron. When 4 different groups are attached to a carbon, it is asymmetric, leading to various types of isomerism. Stereoisomers, DL, same as chemical properties, different biological properties, D sugars and L amino acids. Lipids, CH bonds, nonpolar instead of CH-OH. Bonds is a carbohydrate, high energy, hydrophobic, insoluble in water. Categories, fats, glycerol, and 3 fatty acids. Phospholipids, primary component of membranes. Prostaglandins, chemical messengers, hormones. Steroids, membrane component hormones. Terpenes, pigments, and structure. Fatty acids, hydrocarbon chain, even a number of C, 14 minus less than 20 terminates in carboxyl group. Saturated contain maximum number of hydrogens, all single bonds, maximum energy. Unsaturated, 1 or more double bonds, usually higher melting point. Many common oils are polyunsaturated. Proteins, polymer of amino acids, 21 different amino acids found in proteins. Sequence of amino acids determined by gene. Amino acid sequence determines shape of molecule. Linked by peptide bond covalent functions. Regulate chemical reactions in cell process enzymes. Form bone and muscle, various other tissues. Facilitate transport across cell membrane carrier proteins. Fight disease antibodies. Modus folding patterns of secondary structure. Domain structural, functional. Part of protein often independent of another part, often encoded by different axions. Shape determines protein's function. Amino acids, 21 commonly found in proteins, 21st in selenoscysteine, not mentioned in text. Common structure, amino acid NH2, carboxyl group COOH, R group, 4 different kinds of R groups, acidic, basic, hydrophilic, polar, hydrophobic, nonpolar. Confer individual properties on amino acids, list of amino acids. Structure, primary structure of the amino acid sequence determines higher orders of structure, critical for structure and functions of protein. Secondary, stabilized by intermolecular hydrogen bonding, helix sheet. Tertiary folding, stabilized by ionic bonds between R groups, hydrogen bonding, van der Waals forces, hydrophobic interactions, quaternary 2 polypeptides. Function requires proper folding cofactors, pH, temperature, etc. Proteins are often modified by synthesis, chemical modification, addition of heme groups, hemoglobin, cytochrome. Denatured proteins could not function properly. Proteins are degraded by proteasome as part of the constant turnover of cell components. Hereditary genetic information, nucleic acids, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, hereditary information of all cells, hereditary information for many viruses, RNA, ribonucleic acid, hereditary information for certain viruses, HIV, intermediate in gene expression, composed of nucleotides, ribonucleotides, deoxyribonucleotide. RNA DNA origin, which came first, paradox DNA encodes protein necessary for its own replication. Discovery catalytic RNA by Keck and Eltman suggested that RNA might have been first self-replicating molecule. DNA evolved as more stable type of storage molecule. Proteins, their building blocks is amino acids. The bonding connecting 2 of the amino acids together are called peptide bonds. One of these bonds makes monopeptide, 2 a dipeptide, and any more than that makes a polypeptide. Properties of life, organization being structurally composed of 1 or more cells, which are the basic units of life. Prokaryotic, no nucleus, eukaryotic, membrane-bound nucleus. Sensitivity, response to stimuli, energy processing, growth and development. Reproduction. Hereditary mechanisms to make more of self-DNA-based regulation, including homeostasis. 7. Evolution. This is Professor Will, CBMD, PhD, today Saturday, March 23rd, 2019. And this is the end of my reading of General Fundamentals of Biology. Hope you enjoyed listening. Have a great day.